You recording yet? About to mess up the audio, tickle the tips.
No, don't. Okay. Stop.
I just want to mess with it.
All right, so we're back. This is going to be round 2, I guess, of our video podcast series. And we got some pretty positive reviews on the first one, so I guess we're going to do a second one. And I think for today's topic, we're going to go ahead and talk about missed buck opportunities or actual missed shots themselves. Kind of some takeaways, what we learned, because obviously you get an encounter with a big buck, there's a lot to be learned from. And that's kind of where we're going to get started. But before that, be sure to check out the latest film. We actually dropped my buck film on YouTube tonight. So in podcast land, go to our YouTube. It should be up there. And go ahead and give it a watch and let us know what you think. So I think it's a pretty decent story, a blown opportunity in that one. So with that being said, Dave, I feel like you need to take the floor here. You've had a couple rough years. Totally throwing you under the bus, but I think you have a lot of stories, a lot of takeaways that I think people out there would want to hear about and learn from.
Yeah, I've missed my fair chances of good bucks. A few of them being really good bucks, probably in that 150 plus range.
What kind of time frame are we talking? Last 2,
so in the last,
4?
Well, in the last probably, I guess going back all the way to when I had the old painter's tape, the old Horton crossbow with painter's tape on it. That was a long time ago, but not that long ago, I guess.
Just after college.
Yeah,
8
years ago maybe. First one I missed that day. I didn't know what I was doing at the time. I didn't really have any major takeaways from that one. I guess the one thing I learned.
Paint us a
okay,
quick
I'll
1 minute.
It.
Yeah, give us a 1 minute.
So I'm actually sitting on the ground with this crossbow. I had a buck chasing a doe, coming running the ridge behind me. I was facing down towards the thicket, and he runs over this way, and chasing the doe. They went down the ridge, right next to me, and then of course I didn't really know what I was doing, so I pulled out every call in the book. I think I had like a rattled bag. I had like
you hit him with the can.
I don't know if I had the can or not, but yeah, I hit him with every call in the book, and I'm looking. So it's kind of thick down below me, and I was looking where they went. I actually called a buddy and told him about it, and I was telling him about it, and all of a sudden I hear some leaves rustling to my right, and here came that buck coming out of the thick stuff, kind of up this drainage. And so he was running, he was down like a little swell, like I said, I was on the ground. So I'm seeing his tines like this, running, like barely over the crest. And so the thing I learned from that was, if you're going to throw every call in the book, I think he swung downwind of me is what he did. At the time, I was just younger and didn't know anything about it. But I learned from that, if you're going to throw every call in the book, be ready. They're not just going to turn on a dime and come right to you. They might take a few minutes because they're going to loop around you, etc. Plus, I had the old painter's tape crossbow, and, I lobbed like a 40-yarder at him, never stood a chance. So, a lot of lessons to be learned on that miss. But
dude,
he had him at 20 yards, though, in that ditch. I stood up and tried to, I couldn't get a shot. I was standing there, kind of running towards him, trying to be able to get I took a few steps. Whole time, my buddy was on the phone. He heard the whole thing. It was kind of funny.
Yeah,
he heard the whole debacle.
I kind of have a similar lesson I learned 2015. I was sneaking into an oak flat October 25th-ish, 20th, 25th on a cold front, and I actually busted a doe, and she's blowing at me and kind of meanders off, and I'm sitting there on the ground, stand sticks on my back, bow in hand, and sure enough, a solid 3-year-old comes in. I picked him up, I think, at 80 yards, works to about 45, and I never really saw him leave. And I guess my learning lesson, kind of similar to you, is I should have either sat still to anticipate that deer probably sticking around that area, and I just didn't. I sat there with stand sticks on my back and just stood motionless, and after 5 minutes I gave up, and I started to set my stand up, and that deer took off and ran out of there. And realistically, I probably had a pretty good chance to kill him had I just stayed on the ground, maybe even rustled some leaves, sounded like a deer. He was obviously curious. Things were about right as far as rut, for them to start chasing them does around, and I should have just stayed on the ground.
Yeah, we've done that a couple times here in these last couple of years. If we've had encounters with deer or whatnot, or something, with some reason we didn't want to get in a tree, just drop your stand, just get it off your back, and just kind of like you said, just wait it out a little bit.
Yeah.
See, don't just don't feel the urge that you have to climb, right then and there. Like, I got to get this tree though. I got this tree marked. I got to hunt it. I'm right here.
Emotionally attached to it.
Yeah, exactly. And just to stay, like you said, because you really want to get in that tree,
I did.
And if you would have been a little more patient and not had that urge to climb up, you might have got lucky. You might have hung around and came back to you. You never know.
Okay. So why don't you take us on another missed story somewhere in this time frame between
not this year's yet, or
not this year's. Give me either the stick bow, the buck you should have probably shoulder punched.
Yeah. I'll go with that one. The stick bow one, it was just a miss with the recurve, but this one good buck I had, we actually to lead into the story. I hunted with Byron the day before in an area, and I was filming him, and
we didn't see much.
Yeah, we didn't see much, and you wanted to leave like right then and there, and I was like looking at my maps while we were hunting, and I said, "Looks like there might be like a pinch or something funky over here." Sometimes you see the terrain view, and you go back to satellite view, and you can tell there's like something, but you don't know what it is. That's like we're e-scouting, and you see some kind of different terrain stuff, but you gotta go check it out. This doesn't look like as much of a pinch as it is on the terrain and view and stuff until you're there. Then we went, but he didn't want to go.
No, I was tired. I was like, dude, let's get out of here. Let's go to a piece that's got some better bucks. And you're like, this quote sticks with me to this day, dude. You're here. You might as well spend a 20-minute of boot leather and go check this out. At least do some scouting. And the walk to this location, good buck sign. Yeah. Location itself, go ahead and get into that.
Yeah, we found this location. It's just kind of like a long strip mine pond in between two ridges, and there's actually kind of a steep bankment on the backside as well. And there was just a heavy worn trail. I mean, down to the mud, and we saw some big tracks in it and stuff too. And like, as soon as we saw what looked good, as soon as we saw like this is good, we just like backed out of there. And I literally said, I'm coming here tomorrow morning, because he wasn't hunting the next day. And I went the very next morning.
Late November-ish.
Yeah, it was like 16th, 17th or something.
Starting to wrap up.
Yeah, kind of like that second half of November there. And I didn't see a deer most of the morning. I actually did a phone interview at like 9:30 or something, saying like, yeah, I'm surprised I haven't seen anything yet. All the signs here, blah, 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 blah. All of a sudden, I had this, I heard something. I look up behind me, and I had a buck working the ridge top. And then he starts coming down right to me. So he's directly behind me, which was fine. It wasn't the biggest tree. I could shoot around it. But he comes down right to me, and I get drawn. And I didn't have any of this on film, of course, because I hauled my camera all the way into the woods. It was a really far spot, just to carry it for fun, because I forgot my SD card, like usual. And but he was right there behind me. I was full draw on him at like 17, 18 yards. And he was kind of like, he was up the hill from me, so he was kind of head on. And I had it right on his shoulder, and I didn't shoot because I just wasn't, it's in your brain to wait for that broadside. But if in hindsight at the time, I should have punched his shoulder, clearly. But
this was a little bit before we had set up some arrows. A couple years ago, we got the heavier arrows from Ethics with those inserts, beefed those up. We were shooting probably somewhere in the mid 400 range.
Yeah, I had a pretty heavy arrow at the time. It was.
But not like a 500 with a solid head that's kind of designed how we kind of set up our arrows now, which is we're shooting a low, not a huge dragging fixed blade. And
then I have
we're
no
in that
problem.
position.
Yeah, and I'm always one who preaches, take the first shot you get.
Always.
Because in a drop of a dime, a good buck can leave. And I preach that, but I obviously didn't practice that day because I had a shot quartering two. I didn't take it. If I knew that he was going to run, I would have taken the shot. But I literally had a lane in like 2 more steps, and so I'd already kind of even moved my sight over to the lane, and he didn't. So and then he literally caught a whiff of something, and he didn't even pause. How many buck kills you see where that buck will win people last second, stop, kind of, oh crap, but then people shoot him. He didn't do the oh crap pause. He literally mid stride said I'm out of here and was gone. And I was kicking myself the whole time. Man, I should have shot him when I had that quartering too.
And he was a big buck. How big do you think
he was a good one. He was heavy beams. I mean, he was
in that upper 40s range
at least.
You
at a
said
minimum.
he could have been.
He could have been more.
Club.
You never know. But and they have. It was a good one. And and to have him at 15 yards, it's and don't get a shot off. Even if he would have paused where he took off at for a second, I could have whacked through the brush. At that point he was 12 yards.
Yeah.
But I just.
So biggest takeaway, what would have you changed the most since then, and guess your big takeaway learning lesson?
Big takeaway is to just don't be afraid to punch those shoulders if you got the right arrow set up, which we do now, which I probably had at the time. But I'm gonna take that first shot that I get from now on, because you don't always get that pause. They smell something, they don't pause there for a second. They do sometimes. They do a lot of times. Really, if you watch a lot of hunt videos, you see it a lot. Mm-hmm. But he didn't. He mid stride was out of there, and and that's just it sucks to get a big one that close. You do all that work, you do all that hard struggle and stuff like that, public land and everything, and you get a big one, 12 yards, or closer like this year, and you just can't seal the deal. So, just take them first shots you get. If you got the right arrow set up, if you don't, listen to some of the Ranch Fairy stuff. And he'll point you in the right direction. We've listened to a lot of his stuff. Obviously, I think he's said those shoulders block the vitals. He said so. Just he said for deer, get an arrow over 500 grains, fixed blade, and just forget about shoulders.
Yeah.
What do you say? A three-wheel car can't run as fast as four-wheel car or something?
Well, you said something like that. When you make them three-wheelers, they don't tend to run very far. So.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's my takeaway on that one. And, so I kicked myself on that one, that's my fault.
I think...
I got a few as a misses.
I missed one with a gun. Oh, this had been 2013, small piece property. I was really trying to put a good buck down that year, and so I was passing some okay-ish ones. And gun season rolls around, and... I'm literally walking out. I'm done with the hunt. It's 11 o'clock. I look up on this hillside, southern facing slope, thicket. You're familiar with the area, and sure enough, a P&Y just standing there browsing on some greenbrier. And I remember I go to raise the gun, and then I think, I need to get to a tree to try and get a little more stable.
How far was he?
We'll say 100.
So decent.
So no gimme. I tried to lay down to get prone, and I couldn't get over the brush enough. And he's sitting there browsing, so I kind of have some time here. And I stood up and I tried to I couldn't get to a tree. I had no tree within like 2 to 3 steps. They were all like 4 or 5 steps. Mm-hmm. And I ended up missing that deer, and he didn't know what the hell happened. And he goes back to browsing. I'm laying on my back, loading my muzzleloader to try and get a shot on him. And never got the opportunity. I guess my learning lesson is kind of the sanctuary method worked. Our buddy Wade has preached that for his firearms. Small piece of land. He stays off it. He dances around that place. He doesn't put a lot of pressure on it, and he almost gathers deer as the year goes on.
Yeah.
And especially gun season week, I know he's killed 2 bucks. One I can really remember where he doesn't touch his place. Sunday evening, after a week of firearm pressure, he sets up about 100 yards from the best bedding area, and he's killed. He still
hunts towards the bedding.
Yeah, and so just a small piece, low pressure kind of takeaway there. But a blown opportunity.
What would you have done different? Would you have tried to get up to those trees?
Yeah, probably should have done that, and then I missed a buck like the next gun season, same area.
Yeah.
Missed another one.
I think shoot your gun more, maybe?
Probably should shoot the gun more. I shoot the bow a lot. I have a lot of confidence in the bow, just in bow range. I don't have confidence to be Levi Morgan, but...
Yeah. When in muzzleloaders, it's a little more difficult to get a lot of shots in those because you got to do the whole powder. The powder, the bullet, the cleaning process. Because I don't know how many times, depending on what powder you use, you can't get that many shots without having to clean muzzleloaders.
Sure.
So they are a little bit more... they're tougher to get to practice in.
Okay.
Or
So-
you could carry a shooting sticks,
Yeah, could carry. No, I'm not gonna carry shooting stick. That's another piece of shit I gotta carry.
break off a stick, and just make sure you got a good one on the way in.
Yeah.
But,
So,
well, you know, what's the chances that you just can't get a tree to set up on when you're just walking to the woods either, too, you know?
sure.
Like, what's the chances of that?
Yeah. So missed one with a gun deer. I missed a couple deer with a gun that year, and actually I think it was the bulky gloves a little bit too. I started going to that fingerless glove system or the Marvs foldovers.
Yeah.
But so we're 15 minutes in.
All right.
Let's talk a little bit more of some of these recent misses. I can think of one I got. I know you've got a few.
Yeah. I got a few. Yeah. I do have another miss that's older that I hit a limb on. That really wasn't a crazy intense story on that. Kind of same thing though. He was cruising like a 25-yard trail, and you know, I was kind of waiting for him to get like broadside, and you know, so I was drawn back, and he kind of peeled up the hill, and it shocked me, and I kind of freaked out, and so I was Matt, you know, rushed, stopped him, drew up, let it fly, and hit a limb, you know, because because it happened so fast, didn't see that limb. The limb was close to him that it hit, but I saw the arrow just barely go over him, and so yeah, and that, you know, I don't know, I really don't know. Maybe I just shouldn't have freaked out as much as I did and rushed it. You know, maybe I should have took him a little bit more time. But, you know, in that situation, I don't know. I mean, he was kind of on a trot. I don't think I could have stopped. Maybe I could have stopped him earlier and shot him right in the shoulder on purpose, you know?
Yeah. How close was he when you could have stopped him?
He was like, he was probably, 25-ish.
Okay.
You know,
so
but
not a gimme. You're starting to flirt with that 30-yard range.
Yeah, and then, and I would have had to stop him and then shoot him in the shoulder, but if he would have kept on the trail, I would have had broadside at 20. So it's like, why would I stop him to shoot him in the shoulder?
No, you're
so
right.
I didn't. But
Put him
then
on alert.
I rushed it though. I rushed the shot because
Yeah.
I kind of freaked out. Like, oh crap, he's running away, and I stopped him, and I stopped him and shot kind of quick. I'm sure I ripped the trigger, you know. Which kind of goes to this year on the buck I missed this year. Literally the
Paint
day
the picture.
before.
What day is this?
November
2nd.
Yeah. So November 1st, actually, Andy and I went to Indiana, and we had a good buck coming in right after morning, and I don't know if it caught wind, caught movement, caught something.
Andy screwed you.
Yeah, Andy moved.
Yeah.
I still say that. I still think Andy moved.
Oh yeah, he did. I'm not even there. I know it was A-Rod.
And the buck kind of didn't really like spook off hard, but like kind of like trotted off and like around us, like he avoided us for sure. But he didn't like bust ass out of there. So, but that was November 1st, and we haven't seen like 5 bucks that day. Good day in Indiana. Drove back. We hunted. So when we hunt Indiana, we got to get up at like midnight. You're on the road by like 1, and it's like, you know, to get there before daylight. So we hunted daylight to dark in Indiana.
And
Then drove home. So I didn't get home till
close to midnight. You said 11:30, I think.
Then woke up at 3 and went hunting the following morning here in Ohio, and so I was going on no sleep. You know, that's not an excuse, but so come
You're
morning,
grinding. You know, I think you're putting in your time, your efforts there.
Andy had used his equipment the day before to film me.
Okay.
His arm, at least. He used his arm. And so at the time, I had just bought the Out on a Limb reach arm, and I was waiting for it. It had been a couple weeks. And then, and I had sold my Hunting Beast arm already, and I was using the Hawk arm in between. And I know a lot of people who do running gun self-film are familiar with the Hawk arm just because it's a cheap, affordable option. It's a pretty good, you know, it's a decent arm for the money, but it doesn't have leveling capabilities. So I'm trying to jack around with that. I was already running a touch late because of just from being tired and stuff, obviously. Lesson number 1, you know, get there on time so you ain't jacking around with stuff and, like, you know, starting to get later than I like, and I'm like, screw this camera arm. Okay, cinch it down, ratchet the shit out of it. It's tight. It's good to go. Not moving. You know, I thought everything was fine. Then I have jacking around that camera arm so late. I didn't have my gloves on, and I had my release on already though. So I put my gloves on over my release, and didn't, and so it was kind of like all bunched up on my release, you know. rather than putting the release strap over the cuff of the glove like I usually do, so it's tighter. Mistake number 2. Buck comes working this trail, a good one, probably 40 yards up the hill from me, and I'm trying to film it. The camera arm keeps. So if here's my camera pointing, I put a point on him, I guess, and I let it go, and the camera arm keeps falling like this towards me because it broke loose on the ratchet strap, and so I'm like, okay, finally I'm like, screw it, like whatever. But then he kind of works off, and I hit a couple
How
grunts.
close is this buck when,
He was
when
40
the camera arm is screwing you over?
40, 45,
Okay.
but it was thick, and
Yeah.
he was on a steady, he was going away from me,
Okay.
kind of slightly angling away.
So you've dished the camera arm. Now what?
Then he kind of works off into the thicket, and I wait for a while till he's like for sure like out of sight, and I'm trying to look through my binos, and I can't see him anymore. And so I pull up my grunt tube, and I hit a few grunts. I'm not a professional caller. I think it's probably the only buck I've ever grunted in.
Okay.
But I start grunting, and here he comes, it's starting to come back down to me again, And I'm like, I'm still like, my camera's still right here, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to try to film this deer. So I'm trying to kind of...
Why? Why at this time?
I wanted to film him, he's a big one. But but he's still far at this point because
So he's not killable, but you want the deer footage.
he was 100-ish at
Okay,
now.
yeah, I'm with you.
But I was kind of like back here, kind of messing with it a little bit, and then finally I was like, you know what, forget it. He's coming. I'd already pre-ranged some lanes that he might cross. But
Yeah,
so
time out.
I never even pulled my rangefinder out on this one.
Dude, I cannot stand when I see guys range finding
Yeah.
as the deer's right there. I'm like, dude, he's
Yeah.
probably 20 or 30, and you should fucking know that.
Well, it was early in the morning. It was pretty early, so I don't think I could have pre-ranged stuff.
As good as you want.
Yeah, but I've hunted this exact tree before.
Okay, so back to the story.
A couple of
deer
the
is at
main
what
trails I
range?
kind of knew. Now he's working his way in from 100. You know how they come. He's 100 initially when I see him heading back towards me, and he's coming on a rope, And when them bucks are walking, it seems like slow motion, but they're moving pretty fast. They get to you in a hurry, and he ends up coming straight to me, literally, perfect. Turns broadside at 10 yards, and I have this huge oak. I mean, it's like a one like this, He gets behind the oak, and I'm able to draw when he's behind that. And then he steps in, and he steps out past it, and he kind of keeps coming closer. So at this point, I'm real steep on my angle, and he's at 6-7 yards. And I put the pin on him, and I go to shoot, and mid shot, I didn't keep my back tension on my bow.
Okay.
And so as I'm shooting,
So this is air like number 3 or 4.
oh, for sure. I was rattled, I didn't the jack round with the camera arm. I think I didn't give me I wasn't able to get focused. And plus the steep angle, I don't practice that often. We've done it here and there, but
That's not
not
something
routinely.
you shoot in your backyard. or
And
in your deer.
you got all the bulk of the clothes on. I had my glove bundled up in my release. I mean, there's a lot of mistakes made, and kind of just kind of flinched, because I just wasn't tension back. And right as I was right as I was bringing my finger onto my release, I did that half,
Convulsion.
just half leapt down on accident, and arrow goes off right into the dirt right in front of him, and he's gone.
Yeah.
And I pretty sure I retired that day within minutes.
On film.
Yeah,
We'll post that
I
video.
finally turned the camera on, and I was
You
pretty
literally
upset.
say, yeah. I missed a deer the same day.
Yeah. Then finally, then after I retire, well, same day I had my ward debacles. I missed a doe that day too. After the fact, I was like, this does came in. I was like, screw it, I'm shooting this damn doe. So they see if I can shoot a deer, and I missed her. So, it was all bad.
Day of debacles.
Yeah, what I've learned, practice some of those shots. I mean, a lot of just little stupid mistakes.
The camera
led
adjustment.
up to, even then though, it was a 7-yard chip shot, but then, just a lot of mistakes. A lot of little mistakes to just, mess that whole encounter up.
Sure.
And this was a really good deer. Would have been my biggest,
And it might be the same
For sure.
big deer we seen in there last year.
maybe.
I mean, there was a good one
Yeah.
in there, same time frame.
Yeah. And then when I don't know when I heard from. I don't know if I was out the woods when I heard from you.
Yeah.
or if I was still in the woods. And then then I heard that Byron had what we found out now, well, he had hit one, and I said, all right. So I actually drove and helped him.
Easy on location.
Yeah, helped him try to get that, to look for his deer. Really, that probably, if so, the fact that I was able to come with you, kind of get back motivated, looking for your deer, just kind of, realizing that I actually do like this hunting thing, because I was pretty pissed off that day. Like, I very easily could have retired.
Yeah, maybe it did help that I missed a deer the same day.
A little silver
Keep you
lining.
going.
Yeah.
Like, that dude who's killed a couple bucks just missed one.
And we were tracking and stuff too.
Yeah.
I enjoy tracking, things like that.
Yeah.
So, it just kind of made me realize I don't hate this as much as I do after I miss a buck.
Oh, it is tough. But no, I missed one the same day. I guess my big takeaway was I saw the buck sign there walking out on October 23rd, and I went right back in there on the 2nd of November. Was it 2nd or 3rd?
Second day.
So yeah, maybe I saw that buck sign a little bit later in that week, because I had hunted. I started keying in on this area, and I seen a couple real good rubs and a scrape or two on this transition point. I was like, next time I can hunt, this is where I need to be. I had a good lead on a good buck. This guy comes over the hill, works the scrape at 32 yards, and I had already ranged where around me, and he takes 2 steps away from the scrape, like he's going to come to 16, quarter 2. He's in the back of my truck in my brain. Well, he takes the 2 steps, and you'll see this on the film that comes out tonight, and then he just goes straight right. And not necessarily on a quick trot or anything, but I have beech trees to my left where I've only got a shooting window of about 10, 12 yards. Looking back, my biggest mistake here is in this final 10 seconds, I do not stop that deer, and I think I should have. He was 28 yards, so it wouldn't have been like I was right over top him. That would give me enough time to maybe settle that 30-yard pin in there versus, like I said, I was here. I thought he was going to come this way. He doesn't. I draw and shoot. I think about it, settled, and broke that shot. That would have been my biggest bow buck for sure.
Yeah. Now I've had does get the hell out of there when I've did the mah before. Mah and they're gone.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever had that happen on a buck, but I'm always worried about doing it. I've done it, and I still do it, but sometimes I don't. Actually, mine are bad too. My mahs are bad.
Yeah, you can hear that in that film. It's dying sheep in the tree. Anyways, guys, we're approaching the 30-minute mark, so we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. Let us know what you think about these. We wanted to make this one about hunting. We got some other topics that we're going to cover, tactical wise, maybe some gear we like, ways to maybe save money on gear that we think's good, what gear is not as good to spend the money on. But really appreciate all the support, and if you push the like button or the share button on any of our stuff, really appreciate that. Team Harder and Bucks, we're out.
Take a little tips.